A quick disclaimer before we begin. Aside from the usual, this is a series, make sure you have the next video with the next layer ready, blah blah blah. Somebody a bit ago before my Iceberg did make a Darkstalkers one. They go by a few 2 on Reddit. Despite that though, our charts are both completely different, like theirs had more so just like regular lore you can find in the game and like listening into how obscure it is, while mine's like the more standard like trivia, meta, unused content, all that stuff that you usually see in Iceberg for a video game. However, despite that, I did get 1 or 2 entries directly inspired by theirs, which I'll mention when we get to them. But aside from that, let's just quickly tackle the tip of the iceberg. Re-releases. So this is what the game has been relegated to ever since after their 3rd title, and yeah, it's gone pretty infamous for this. They have not made a new one ever since, and it keeps on getting re-released and re-released on PS2 and PS3 and PS4, and yeah, despite popular demand, they have yet to make a sequel, and they keep on re-releasing these to quote-unquote test to see how it goes. Darkstalkers 4. Speaking of the fabled game that everybody's waiting for that hasn't come yet, it's been over 20 years, and people are still waiting for a 4th title in the main series of the game. But despite that, and despite all of the popularity it seems to be getting, we still just have re-releases and cameos in other games. Darkstalkers are not dead. This is the infamous line that was shown at the end of an official trailer that showed off 3D renders and cutscenes of the Darkstalkers characters to, you know, promote Capcom's jump to the next generation and such. And it gave people a lot of hope and basically seemed to spell out like, hey, there's gonna be a new Darkstalkers game, don't worry. But as we know, yeah, that hasn't happened yet, and this line has become pretty infamous because of that, with many people kind of quoting it ironically or pointing to it as false hope. Morgan Sprite. So this is something that even people who don't play the games might know about if they played crossover titles, being that Morgan is really infamous for her sprites never being changed no matter what game she appears in, despite how primitive and, you know, like less quality, let's say, it looks compared to everything else. And they've used this in Marvel vs. Capcom and most notably CVS, where in the 2nd game of that, and I guess also the 1st one, her sprite is so jarringly different from everybody else's that it just straight up makes the game look like Mugen. And hilariously enough, apparently somebody did make a new Morgan sprite for Mugen, so yeah. Western cartoon. This is another thing that even people who don't play the games probably know about, just because of how many videos I've made about this and how it's crossed over into, you know, like cartoon review viewers and all that stuff. Being that the Western cartoon was not only an oddity to be made due to the series being more obscure, but also just because of how hilariously cheap and bad it is. It's made by the same people behind the Street Fighter cartoon, but this is seen as even worse than it, if not much worse than it. It seems like a cool idea, but it gets ruined by awkward writing as well as the unnecessary inclusion of some child stand-in character who we'll get to later on in the next layer. And yeah, even the anime OVA might be better than this, we'll also get to later. Regional name changes. For whatever reason, coming out of Japan, a lot of the cast, and by that I mean almost the entire cast, had their names changed. Just to name a few, there's Lele and Shinko, Bibi and Boletta, and then Lord Raptor and Sirach Sabal. I think I got his names mixed up, however. Mei Wang. This is the last of the tip layer, and this is the start of some characters who are either secret or we just see make physical appearances through cameos, and she's the most known and the least missable. And Mei Wang is Shinko's sister, and she's also the talisman on her hat. She transforms into it, and you can see her appear sometimes, such as in Lele's Midnight Bliss attack. I'm going to be using the names interchangeably, excuse me for that. And she's also her art costume in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And that does it for the tip. I'll see you all next time for the next layer, which goes into deeper secrets of the game.